With the rise of AI tools, a lot of people who regularly have to do design adjacent work saw the possibilities immediately. Social posts, presentations, flyers, event graphics, product images, whatever. If design is part of your job, but design is not actually your job, the idea of handing that work to AI is very appealing. But the problem is, AI is pretty bad at design. Now, to be fair, it has gotten a lot better in recent years. Like, we're not dealing with quite as many people who have 20 fingers and noses on the sides of their heads these days. But if you're relying on ChatGPT or Claude to design your assets for you, you still have two big problems. One is that the designs are often not very good. And two is that even if they are good, they tend to look just like everybody else's same AI generated designs. I can scroll around online and spot a Claude designed asset almost instantly. It has a very noticeable default design language. The layouts, the typography, and color schemes, once you learn to recognize it, you can't really unsee it. So, what do you do if you want to use AI for design, but you don't want your work to look like it came out of the same slot machine as everybody else's? Well, let me share a few practical steps that I've found to help make AI design way better. But before I do, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you along for the ride, and it really helps me try to get this little channel off the ground. And leave a comment about what you've done to try to make your AI more useful for design tasks. I would love to hear your ideas. Now, here's what I've done to make my AI better at design. The first thing is that I create a sub agent for those tasks. Now, I know, a few months ago, creating teams of specialized AI agents for certain tasks was all the rage. And it seems like that idea has kind of fallen out of fashion now. I think a lot of that is because too much of it was just window dressing. It was the same model with a new name tag and a prompt that said, "You're an expert graphic designer. You're creative and bold and spunky." And that's not very useful. But I do actually still use agents for a few really practical reasons. A big one is that they have their own context window and they don't clutter up and take control of the main thread. So the task can be running while I'm still working on something else. And for me, there is real value in just the mental organization of being able to dispatch a certain kind of work to a named workspace. The key for me is that I don't think of agents as little AI personalities. I think of them as workspaces for related tools, skills, and procedures to run. So when I call up Nova, my design agent, I'm not calling up a pretend designer persona. I'm calling up a workspace that knows here are the design skills available, here are the render tools, here's the taste references, here are the workflows, and here is how design work should be handled for me. That matters because the output isn't relying on a vague personality prompt, it's being shaped by repeatable processes. Now, the second thing that helps is to give your AI a taste profile. This is a really simple thought, but if you're only using ChatGPT or Claude AI in a normal chat window, you're probably missing this. Create a file that your design agent reviews every time it starts work. And in that file, put examples of designs you already know are good. Don't try to explain what good means to you, show it. You see, AI is not especially good at pure creativity. It's not going to summon a fresh visual direction out of nothing and somehow land on something tasteful. Remember, AI is trained to be risk averse. It's not going to take chances with your designs. It's going to take the path of least resistance. But even though you won't get a lot of genuine creativity, AI is very good at imitation. And we can leverage that skill by giving it examples to imitate. If you give real work that you like and then tell it to create something informed by those references, your odds of getting something usable go way up. The point is not to just have it directly copy something. The point is giving it a target. You're saying, this is the level of restraint. This is the kind of typography I'm looking for. This is the kind of layout I'd like. This is how colors should be used. This is what good looks like. And that is so much more useful than saying, make it modern and clean. Because AI has been told to make things modern and clean several billion times now, and apparently it's decided that means rounded cards with purple gradients. Now, the third thing I do is weekly training. Every Monday, I have a scheduled process that sends my design system out to review a set of websites or designs from companies that I know to have very good design. It looks at colors and typography and spacing and visual effects, layouts, and just the general feel of the work. In some cases, I have it actually inspect the HTML code to understand specifically what is happening under the hood. And since I'm a pastor, I also have it look at church websites and recent sermon graphics from churches I know do a great job of design so it can learn what's happening in that world too. Then it searches for current design trend language, like graphic design trends in 2026 and summer color palettes in 2026 and web design trends and sermon graphic inspiration and all that kind of stuff. And when it gathers all of that, it writes out a structured report. Now, I have one version of this for graphic design and another version for web design. And every time my design agents are asked to make something, they're instructed to review the most recent reports and let those observations shape their work. This is incredibly useful because it helps the agent get out of its baked in default design language. It gives it fresh visual material to respond to. And it gives it permission to try newer combinations of type and color and layout, texture and composition. And then the final thing, and I honestly think it's the one that makes the biggest difference, is make it design in HTML and verify its work with something like Playwright. Do not let it default to SVG or Pillow. This is the part that sounds pretty technical, but the idea is actually very simple. When AI agents are asked to make graphics, they will default almost always to using SVG or Pillow. Now, SVG is an image format that's written as text code. You describe shapes with code, draw a circle here, put a rectangle there, place this text at this coordinate. And Pillow is a Python image library that works similarly. It builds an image line by line. Draw this box, place this text, set this font size, use these coordinates. And it makes sense that an AI reaches for these tools because AI models produce text. That's what they do. So when you ask for an image, the model treats it like code writing because that's what's most comfortable. The problem is that SVG and Pillow are basically the model trying to draw blind. The agent says, put this title at x equals 120 and y equals 80, but it doesn't really understand how that title actually looks once it renders. It doesn't naturally feel if the line is too long, or the spacing is awkward, or the text is about to run off the edge, or if all the elements are colliding and overlapping each other. Technically, it made the graphic you asked for, but visually, it'll probably be a mess. Now, HTML and CSS solve one half of that problem because the browser is already a real layout engine. So instead of manually calculating every coordinate, it can say, center this, stack these, put these in a row, wrap this text, give this section a gap, constrain this container. The browser handles the layout math. That's what browsers are built to do. And then Playwright solves the other half of the problem. Playwright lets the agent open the HTML it just created in a real browser and take a screenshot. And that means the workflow changes from an open loop to a closed loop. Instead of write image code, call it done, and move on, it becomes build the design, screenshot it, look at it. Notice if the title is crowded or the contrast is weak or the spacing feels cheap. Revise it, screenshot it again, and keep iterating until it works. And that is the big unlock. SVG and Pillow are like laying out a poster by typing coordinates with your eyes closed. HTML and Playwright give the agent a layout engine and eyes. It can use the browser to do what the browser's good at, and then use screenshots as feedback. Closing that feedback loop makes a huge difference. And then once everything is approved, it can export that HTML into a PNG or whatever you need. So my basic AI workflow for design is that I use agents as workspaces that run related skills, not as fake personas. I give them taste profiles with known good references for the work I'm trying to get them to do. I refresh their visual context every week so that they don't get stuck in the same default AI design language. And when it's time to actually produce the asset, I use HTML and Playwright so the agent can render, inspect, and correct its own work. Now, that still doesn't automatically make AI a great designer. In the end, your taste and input will still be needed. But it does make it a much more useful design assistant. And more importantly, it helps you stop getting designs that look like they were made by the same model with the same prompt in the same 5 minutes as everyone else's. Now, hey, let me know if you try some of these tips and it helps you out. I'd love to hear your experiences. And otherwise, we'll see you back next time.